a number of these programs prioritize training for underserved populations. So low-income individuals, veterans, disabled workers, single parents, formerly incarcerated, and help integrate those displaced workers into the clean energy industry.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast, a regular discussion with building industry professionals. This is Senior Editor Patrick McComb. Today I'm joined by Keith Bohling, Senior Product Manager for NYSERDA. You can find the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. You can leave feedback and ask questions there too. Keith, thank you very much for being on the show. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So we've corresponded a number of times on the regular podcast. You've been very generous with your thoughts and what you. It was illogical to talk to you about what you do for NYSERDA. Can you please tell me first of all what NYSERDA is and what you do for them?
Yeah, sure. So NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. So we're technically a public benefit corporation. We offer objective information analysis, innovative programs, technical expertise, and funding to help New Yorkers increase energy efficiency, save money, use renewable energy, and of course, reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. So NYSERDA operates in a number of spaces, from large-scale renewables like offshore wind, spaces like commercial and industrial, transportation, and of course, residential. So I'm a senior project manager on the residential team that focuses on upgrading 1 to 4 family homes, so residential scale buildings, if you will. So we manage programs and pilots to upgrade the building shell and prepare it for electrification. So working with our colleagues and some of the other teams, we promote a pathway, a logical pathway or sequence of upgrading the building envelope, making the homes electric ready, electrifying the space heating, and then capping it off with renewables like rooftop solar or community solar.
So Keith, where does the money come from for these many projects?
Yeah, so the funding mainly comes from the ratepayers in New York, utility ratepayers in New York. There's a small surcharge on most ratepayers' bills, and for most homeowners, it comes out to be about $5 or $6 a month, and that feeds into what's called the Clean Energy Fund. And then NYSERDA works with the Department of Public Service and the Public Service Commission to approve projects and initiatives that we want to undertake, and then the funds come from that Clean Energy Fund.
So, if it's a few bucks for everyone's bill, how big a pot of money at the end of the year are we talking about?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually don't know that off the top of my head, Patrick.
It's billions, right?
I don't know if it's billions. It's certainly millions. What's interesting is that there are a few other funding sources. We're eager to see some of the action at the federal level, of course, and sometimes there are funding sources that will say come out of events that may not be good news, but maybe have a positive outcome, maybe on the back end. So we think about cases where maybe there's a settlement with a large corporation as a result of activity that they undertook. Sometimes those settlement funds end up becoming funding for targeted projects or programs within NYSERDA.
So on the residential side in New York, what programs are available to New York homeowners who may be having difficulty paying their energy bills, or are there? I'm assuming there are eligibility requirements for these funds.
For some programs, yes. So yeah, there are a number of programs available to New Yorkers through NYSERDA as well as through their local utility. So in fact, we recently launched, in collaboration with the New York State Utilities, New York just launched the New York Energy Advisor website. So that helps income eligible New Yorkers view a list of programs that they may be eligible for. These include programs to help with reducing their energy costs and low or no cost energy upgrades. So a couple of those programs, NYSERDA's Assisted Home Performance with Energy Star and our Empower New York programs, Those are programs where income eligible households benefit from energy efficiency services, such as high efficiency lighting, appliance replacements, attic and wall insulation, and HVAC upgrades. So the Assisted Home Performance Program offers a 50% incentive towards the cost of those improvements to moderate income households. And then Empower New York offers no cost improvement services to low income households. But customers who aren't eligible for low or moderate income services are eligible for other programs like free energy assessments, low interest loans for energy efficiency upgrades, incentives on heat pump installations, and incentives for PV or solar installations. So since late 2010, NYSERDA has provided more than 160,000 free and reduced cost energy audits to New York homeowners. So in addition
So
to
I'm
those,
sorry to interrupt you. What
yeah,
is
yeah.
involved in one of those energy audits? Is it a blower door test or is it just a visual?
Yeah, so it depends on the program. We have for some of our programs, we do have a lighter weight audit, residential energy audit option available, and so that is a walkthrough. Look at the insulation levels, look to see if air sealing has been performed, but not necessarily include a blower door test. And one of the reasons we've uh, made that change is that we don't necessarily need to know up front or be able to sort of quantify, right, the leakiness of the home. If the home is leaky, we know what the primary measures are, right? It's air sealing the rim joist, it's air sealing in the attic, especially if we can get that insulation pulled back. Those are typically the best path on retrofit. There are other opportunities, maybe around windows and doors and things like that, but we sort of look at it as a little bit more of a binary with some of our programs of, if those areas are not air sealed, let's air seal them. If they are air sealed, great. Where's there more bang for the buck? Is it deepening, the attic insulation, that type of thing?
So we've been talking about homeowners. Are there programs for renters as well? Because oftentimes rental housing is some of the least efficient in the state. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, there certainly can be challenges with rental properties. So yeah, some of our programs definitely are available to renters, and we have services available to building owners as well. So in some cases, the renters can help connect NYSERDA with one of our network contractors. And connect the network contractor, the building owner, to initiate energy efficiency upgrades for the building, and that energy advisor is a good starting place. Um, the other things that may be available for renters is participating in something like community solar. So community solar is subscribing to a community solar delivery or solar delivery, right, of the customer's regular electric coming through their regular provider, but the power is produced from a solar array, on a solar farm somewhere. It's fed directly into the electric grid. The homeowner can opt into that, and the billing, is taken care of by their utility directly. So they receive a credit on their electric bill for the portion of their consumption that comes from the community solar. So that's a prime opportunity for renters. But there's also things like the common items with light bulbs, right, and things along those lines. Um, so it's interesting, as we look at programs, we talk about homeowners and we talk about renters as well. One of the other things that may be less well known to the audience is we also fund and manage community energy advisors across the state. So advisors can help residents, renters, businesses, and multifamily building owners reduce their energy use and their costs and make informed energy decisions. So the community energy advisors perform local outreach and participate in local events to educate the local community about resources that are available. So our goal there is to reduce what we call the energy burden. That is the cost to heat and cool and light our homes for all New York residents and businesses. So it's interesting, sort of the different places we activate resources, not just directly with contractors, but also with programs like those community energy advisors.
So Keith, how did you get into working for NYSERDA?
Yeah, so I had a background in professional project management and a passion for building efficiency, building green, reducing carbon footprint. And I needed a career change from the for-profit space. And I sort of checked the box with, some of those passions and then the project management experience that I have. So saw an opportunity, applied for it, and here we are 4.5 years later.
How many folks work for the agency?
Yeah, so we're almost 400 strong across the state, offices in Albany, New York City, and then out in Western New York as well.
So as I understand it, NYSERDA isn't the one who's actually go out there and blowing cellulose insulation or doing air sealing work, right? You're hiring, I presume, weatherization contractors and other contractors. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So the NYSERDA programs partner with quality contractors across the state to perform the energy assessments, the weatherization updates, heat pump installations, and solar installations. So we support the contractors with program manuals, trainings. We have field technical resources, call-in support, work scope reviews, as well as a quality assurance inspection process.
And how does that work? How do you actually have auditors go out and check the work after it's done?
Yeah, so we implement third-party quality assurance inspection, and they go out on a sample of work and compare the work completed to a standardized program checklist. And then they provide feedback both to us at the program level and then also to the contractor on how well they met the expectations. If they identify anything that's what we call a critical work deficiency, those need to be resolved by the contractor in order to correct a failing grade. But the QA inspection process also helps us identify the best contractors and reward them with a special designation to help them stand out to homeowners and to businesses. So, for instance, in our residential solar installer program, we award a quality installer and a gold quality installer designation or recognition to contractors that exceed the annual quality assurance criteria and consistently provide top tier performance and quality on their installations and to their customers.
Can I ask a really silly question? What makes a solar install, a PV install, better than another? It seems like you're either following the rules and doing a good job, or you're not.
Yeah, so there is quite a detailed installation checklist. Some people would compare it perhaps in concept to like you'd have an electrical inspector come out and review the work. There are some items that are what we call critical deficiencies or major. There are other items that are more minor. The documentation left with the homeowner, the education with the homeowner, things along those lines. And so we look at it, the entire body of work for that contractor. Did we receive customer concern phone calls? How were their scores on those QA inspections? And those are some of the criteria we use to award the quality installer or the gold quality installer.
So, are you actually matching a contractor to a specific project? Does the homeowner have any say in who is hired to do the work on their home?
Yeah, so great question. And the answer is it varies by program. So in many of our programs, we'll provide a list to homeowners through our website, and they can go ahead and choose the contractor they might want to work with, or perhaps two that they want to interview and figure out which is the best fit for them. Our low income program, Empower New York, actually has an application process that provides a little bit more of a concierge experience, if you will, for the homeowner, as they may not have the time or the resources to be able to choose a contractor or interview a contractor. So in those cases, the homeowner or maybe an advocate working with the homeowner or the renter will go ahead and complete an Empower New York application, and that will come into us. And working with our administrative partners, we'll go ahead and dispatch a referral out to one of our network contractors, and then the contractor will contact the homeowner, begin the assessment process, and plan the work and submit the paperwork for the homeowner.
Hmm. So how does one become a contractor that works with NYSERDA for these kind of projects?
Yeah, so there is a Become a Contractor page on the NYSERDA website. So that's a page of resources about qualifications, the program guidelines, and application forms. So contractors can go there, read up on it, see if it seems like a good fit for them, right? And can go ahead and apply there. So, depending on the scope of services that are going to be delivered, depending on the type of work, industry relevant certifications might be required of a contractor. So, in most cases, at least one member of the crew or a supervisor of the crew needs to hold a relevant and current certification for the type of work being performed.
So a New York certification, is that or is that an oversimplification?
Not necessarily a New York certification, but say BPI, the Building Performance
Uh-huh.
Institute, or for solar installers, the NABCEP, the NABCEP certification that applies for solar installations. So we're largely looking for industry standard certifications.
I've heard from weatherization contractors, and I'm sure some of those folks work for NYSERDA. That it's the margins are very low in that work, and with material costs being as volatile as they are, how do you ensure that the contractors are being compensated fairly for the work they're doing?
Yeah, it can certainly be a challenge, and there's a couple of things that we do to help ensure that our compensation is fair. We conduct periodic surveys of contractors to learn about their expenses, and then consider that information that we gather in our program design and our program updates. So sometimes that's relevant to labor rates. Other times it's to material costs. So, for instance, with COVID, and recall the severe weather event that happened in Texas last year, right? In the podcast, there's been conversation about supply chain challenges, and some have been surprises, right? That you and guests have talked about. So, pricing for some products like two-part spray foam has increased dramatically, and so NYSERDA has implemented adjustments to our specifications and our contractor compensation schedule. For our programs to keep pace with the market, and we continue to monitor the situation as it evolves. It's to our benefit to have the contractors be successful and have a profitable business model. We have goals that exceed the number of jobs being done today, so we want to do everything we can to be responsible, right, with the funds that we're entrusted to invest on New York's behalf. But we also want contractors to be successful. We want contractors to be, profitable, to earn a fair profit on the jobs they make, so that one, they stay in business, and two, they expand.
And I think we've said on the podcast before, you can't do a good job if you're trying to, not lose your shirt, right? You need to have a comfortable living to do a good job.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be back with more right after this. If you run a home service business like painting, contracting, lawn care, cleaning, your to-do list is endless. From hiring staff to mountains of paperwork, not to mention doing the actual work that pays the bills. Jobber is a mobile and online app that helps you organize your business and look professional. With Jobber, you can quote jobs, schedule your crew, invoice, and get paid all in one place. Try it free today at getjobber.com/finehomebuilding. So, one of the significant challenges in the construction industry is preparing the workforce to move toward changes in where we're getting our energy, and ensuring there's a pipeline of skilled workers to do the work in a clean energy business. As the podcast audience has heard here, and most have likely experienced, attracting and retaining workers has been a challenge. What are you guys doing to that end?
Yeah, so it's an area we've invested significantly. NYSERDA has committed over $120 million to support existing workforce development and training
In what industries,
initiatives.
Keith? I'm going to interrupt you there. So, in what specific clean energy industries are we talking?
Yeah, so clean heating and cooling, right? So skilled workforce to be able to design and size and then install heat pumps and commission heat pumps for clean heating and cooling, solar, and then of course the weatherization building shell work as well. So those are the three that I'm most familiar with. Um, and we see an opportunity, and these programs, the way that they're designed, we want to gear up to where we can prepare 40,000 New Yorkers for these clean energy job opportunities: solar, weatherization, building shell work, and then most strongly upgrading fossil fuel heating to heat pumps. So, the programs that we invest in help with recruiting, hiring, training workers, and we're focused through our Climate Act, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. We're focused on seeing that all New Yorkers sort of have that opportunity, right? So a number of these programs prioritize training for underserved populations, so low-income individuals, veterans, disabled workers, single parents, formerly incarcerated, and help integrate those displaced workers into the clean energy industry. So to support that transition, right, to a clean energy economy, both nationally and at the state level, we need that trained, skilled workforce. And we have findings that we saw in a recent job study report developed by the New York Just Transition Working Group, that hundreds of thousands of new jobs will be created to support the clean energy goals that New York has for 2030 and beyond. So, there are three large programs that I'm aware of, and I thought I'd share just a little bit of detail about them.
And these are
Um,
the programs that are training workers and trying to attract workers to the industry, right? Okay.
exactly right, Patrick. Yeah. So, one of them is an on-the-job training program for energy efficiency and clean technology. So, this program actually provides wage subsidies to eligible businesses to help reduce the financial risk of hiring and training new workers. So, working with our colleagues at the State Department of Labor, the program assists participating businesses with developing on the job training plans, as well as assessing the necessary skill, identifying available workers that can meet those skills. So, the primary purpose of this OJT, or on the job training funding, is to train new hires for clean energy work. And so what we're hoping to do there is sort of, de-risk that expansion or that thought of hiring an additional person and getting them trained up on clean energy work.
Hmm.
So another program that we have provides funding for clean energy businesses, organizations, and municipalities to hire interns to perform meaningful work, right, in the clean energy sector. So clean energy businesses and interns can apply. We provide a bit of a matchmaking service there, and accepted businesses will select, interview, and hire interns, and then NYSERDA provides reimbursement on a percent of the intern's wages. And what we see some businesses, some savvy business owners doing is they will go ahead and bring somebody on as an intern under the funding for that particular funding opportunity through NYSERDA. And then if that person's, of course, we want to see them work out well. If they're working out well for that contract or that clean energy business, then they'll go ahead and roll that person into a full-time staff member and then be able to leverage that on-the-job training funding opportunity, sort of stacking, the two of those.
So can
There's
you
a
tell me depending on who's asking, I've heard a number of industries described as clean energy, truthful or not. So like, has New York decided is clean energy?
Yeah, so all of these are what are called RFPs, or funding opportunities. And so the NYSERDA current funding opportunities website has a program guide, and it actually will list out in detail. At a high level, it's solar installers, it's clean heating and cooling. So again, that workforce to upgrade fossil fuel space heating equipment to heat pumps, and contractors doing weatherization work in preparing a home to be electrified. Those are the big three categories I'm familiar with in the residential space, and there may be others, but that NYSERDA current funding opportunities page has the details in each of those program manuals. Um, what's I think an example of sort of a more holistic or complete view of the challenges before us is we have a funding opportunity for hands-on entry-level training programs designed to build out that talent pipeline of new workers, technicians, installers, and technical sales. But what we also want to do is help them with some of the skills in addition to what they might need 9 to 5 during the day. So high schools, unions, trade associations, nonprofit community colleges, nonprofits, community colleges. Um, they can engage high school students, out of school youth, unemployed, underemployed adults in high efficiency coursework, that leads to jobs, certification, degrees. But what we also are funding with that funding opportunity is things like helping them with job interviewing, job placement, preparedness. Um, Successful awardees under this funding opportunity are sometimes a partnership between a strong training organization like an HVAC distributor or a manufacturer or a trade school, combined with an organization that's focused on human services to provide the wraparound services like interviewing and resume preparation, and some of those life skills that can you know um,
Get
pair.
you a job or not? I think you. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And help you show up each day and show up prepared for work, and even manage some of those things outside of work that can end up being distractions that can be challenging to being present every day at work. Yeah.
So, NYSERDA is doing its part in New York. Are there similar programs in other states that you're familiar with?
Yeah, definitely. So most states, vast majority of states, have a state energy office, just like NYSERDA. And podcast listeners elsewhere, just Google, your state name and state energy office. There's also a federal clearinghouse to access a list on the Department of Energy's website, and we'll include a link there to the state energy office list in the podcast notes. And those state energy offices, many of them share that same mission of increasing efficiency, decreasing carbon emissions, and their respective websites. They're going to offer the list of programs for their residents, businesses, and renters. But what we should also keep in mind is that in many areas, local utilities offer consumer information, incentives, and some of them run contractor network programs to deliver efficiency and electrification in their area. So your local utility can be a great resource as well. And I think my strongest word of encouragement there to folks is, sort of be your own advocate. Do that research, look for your state energy office, but also at the utility. There can be programs that stack on each other, or benefits that come from one organization, then additional program benefits from other organizations, whether it be the utility or the state energy office.
So, do folks like yourself have a conference or a national get together? And what is that called? And what do you all talk about? I'm dying to know.
Yeah, it's a great question and a very timely one. So, in let's see, next week is the National Building Performance Association conference happening in Nashville, and
Can
the
I
focus.
interrupt you? So,
Yeah,
this used to be Affordable Comfort, which is headquartered in Pittsburgh, as I recall, right? Isn't that the original
that
name of this?
that may be the predecessor. Yeah, you
Yeah.
may be right with that. I'm not positive.
I'm
Um,
old, Keith.
well, you've been in the space longer than I have. Um, and so, yeah, certainly the focus of conferences like that is by and large sharing best practices. What can I do to help my business be more competitive? What can I do to help my business be more profitable? So, definitely best practices from the contractor perspective. How do I grow? What are the resources that I can leverage in order to grow my business? There's there's a usually a top performing crew at every business, right? You've got the pair or the crew of folks that you stick in a van, and you have a high confidence they're going to go out and do well. And it can feel a little uncomfortable, right, for a business owner or operations manager to say, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and split up that crew and create myself two crews. And I'm going to pair somebody new, maybe with that on the job training, incentive that NYSERDA offers, or another program. And I'm going to have each of those experienced folks mentor and train somebody new. And there's a great vision that down the road I'm going to have twice as many highly productive crews. But it can be uncomfortable, right, as a business owner, as an operations manager, to take that step. And so I think one of the things that you can learn in conferences like this is, how do we do that successfully? How do we de-risk that? But one of the other things that the conference serves are folks like ourselves. We have folks from NYSERDA and consultants that we work with that attend the conference, both to listen and to teach. We want to share the best practices and lessons that we have learned to help others be successful. And then, of course, the conference is there for us to learn as well. What have folks in other states and other programs learned? So definitely at a national level, but also locally. There's a Clean Homes conference coming up at the beginning of June in Saratoga Springs, New York. And that is a regional conference under the Building Performance Association. And again, there, while it's a little, tighter geographic focus, anybody from the Northeast is welcome to attend. And, we want to share best practices, share what we've learned, and, help all of us elevate our game.
Well, I hope you'll help me put a link on to that conference on the podcast page, because I think a lot of folks who listen to this show would be interested in going to that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Keith, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I've learned a lot about NYSERDA. My former colleague Matt Milham was a big fan of the organization, and you do good work, so thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate the airtime.
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks to Keith for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And please like, comment, or review us however you're listening. It helps other folks find our podcast. Stay safe, everybody. Keep craft alive. Put in some LED light bulbs, too.